Hello, my name is Christopher Perry, and this is my Spanish language variation project. I will be focusing on region of the Spanish-speaking world that I'm familiar with, namely Spanish spoken in the United States, where I live, Spanish spoken in the southern region of Spain called Andalusia, and Spanish spoken in parts of Colombia, where much of my family is from. So, to start off with briefly and broadly, Spanish is one of the most spoken languages in the world. The image that you see to the left is a little bit outdated, but I think it's valuable because it represents the relationship between the populations of the major Spanish-speaking countries in the world. It is an image that I got from ethnologue.com, which is a project dedicated to the cataloging of languages. It's a really cool site, so I recommend it to everybody. There are more than 400 million native speakers of Spanish worldwide, and it's the official language for 21 countries and territories. And briefly, the history of the Spanish language is derived from Latin spoken on the Iberian Peninsula. But one of the main influences on Spanish was the Arabic language because the Arab-speaking Moors inhabited the Iberian Peninsula for 8 centuries. And they gave to the language many words that are still in use today. You can see some of them there on the screen. So one of the regions that I'm interested in is Andalusia, and in Andalusia there is a dialect of Castellano. Castellano is the Spanish spoken in Spain. There's a dialect of Castellano called Andaluz. Let's listen to this gentleman real quickly.
¿Qué piensa que es el andaluz? ¿Es una lengua o es un dialecto? Cuando pasa el camión.
Sí, no pasa nada. Los camiones no nos impedirán hablar.
Para nada, para nada.
La idea más centrada que hay ahora mismo entre los lingüistas más importantes, no ya de España, sino de Europa, que algunas veces coinciden, es que el andaluz no es ni un idioma ni un dialecto, sino es lo que se le llamaría un conjunto de hablas.
So even in that brief clip, we could hear some of the features of Andaluz. If you look at the spelling of Andaluz, there is a Z consonant at the end. There is a dropping of end consonants that is prevalent through Andaluz. It's not Andaluz, it's Andaluz. He does it quite often with a lot of his S's. And then the following consonant, he kind of punches a little bit more. So there's a dropping of ending consonant and a punching of the following consonant. Also, Andaluz and Castellano more broadly is characterized by the use of ceseo, which is kind of a lisping of the S or Z sounds that are between 2 vowel sounds. And also, they are different from many of the Latin American countries in their use of the second person plural vosotros. So I'm not going to go into this image in detail, but the main reason why Spanish is as prevalent in the world today as it is because of the reach and power of the Spanish Empire. You can see there how much of the New World the Spanish Empire controlled at one time. But they encountered many indigenous peoples, and many of those indigenous peoples spoke their own languages. So if you travel through some of these areas where they may speak Spanish and Quechua, or Spanish and Aymara, or Spanish and Nahuatl, you may see some new vocabulary and signage that uses a mix of both. I'm not going to show this clip, but it is an interesting interview between a Mexican football player and a Peruvian interviewer, and it is interesting to compare and contrast the way they speak with how the gentleman from Andalusia speaks as well. Colombia. Colombia is where my family is from. My mother is from Barranquilla, which is a city in the northern region of Colombia. But I have a lot of family in Bogotá, which is this tiny little strip right here. In Bogotá, they speak a dialect called Rolo or Bogotano, which is sometimes it's called Español neutro because it's neutral, it's crisp, it's clear, there aren't many distinguishing features. Bogotá is a large city, the largest city in Colombia, and so many different people come from many different parts, and I think that's kind of had a stabilizing effect on accent. The other dialect that I'm interested in is Paisa, which is in this region where Medellin is. I love the Paisa accent. Let's listen to some of it right now.
para que ganemos.
La verdad es que se siente algo increíble, una expectativa completa. Por primera vez no voy a estar en Colombia Moda solo como modelo, sino que voy a tener la oportunidad pues de representar y ser como esa cara de moda de UNE, del canal UNE, que pues es casi el único canal que tiene transmisión de todos los desfiles. Entonces para mí es un reto muy chévere.
I'll end with chévere, which is a word that's used a lot in Colombia and Venezuela. I love the rhythm of Paisa. There's kind of a dropping of the third or fourth sound in succession. And there's a bit of a dropping of the ending consonants that we heard a little bit in Andaluz. As opposed to Bogotano, which we'll hear here.
Hay mucha gente que cree en los fantasmas, otros que no, pero esas cosas a uno le dan miedo, por más valiente que sea. Un amigo mío no cree en eso, además es toñero, yo no sé por qué soy amigo de ese huevón. Me dijo que esos fantasmas no existen.
So even with the short clip here, you can hear quite a bit more pronunciation of many of the consonant sounds. It is clear, it is crisper, they don't drop the consonant sounds. But there isn't that lovely rhythm of Paisa, unfortunately. So Spanish in the United States, on these maps you can see the concentration of Spanish speakers in the United States, and it follows what used to be Mexico and the Spanish Empire. In one of the documents that was suggested to us by Dr. Lanier, which is called US and Them, Us and Them, a study of linguistic attitudes of speakers of high and low prestige varieties of Spanish toward world Spanishes by Nesa Luz Figueroa. The author does an interesting thing on, it's a twist on Braj Katru's concentric circles of English. She makes concentric circles of Spanish, and you can see where United States falls in those circles. It's way out on the outside in terms of prestige. And part of that may have to do with the prevalence of Spanglish, which is broadly a mixing of English and Spanish. A lot of that has to do with the prevalence of commercialism, materialism, merchandise. You can see here 23 sabores blended into one extraordinary taste. Bienvenidos Starbucks. I was in Bogotá when the first Starbucks opened. A lot of people were so excited. A lot of people were very angry. And much is the same reaction to what Spanglish is. Let's take a listen to this real quickly.
Ayer escuchamos a los especialistas del idioma dar su punto de vista sobre el Spanglish. Hoy conoceremos la presencia que tiene este lenguaje en la segunda parte de nuestra serie especial, Parqueando el idioma, a cargo de Gustavo Ortiz.
1057, fin de semana tonight. The brand in Miami Beach, ¿quieres ir conmigo? Vámonos a bailar. We're gonna party, baby, tonight. Keep it right here, baby. It's Friday con La Calle, tu ritmo latino.
Okay, so there's some Spanglish. An old professor of mine wrote this in his essay, The Sounds of Spanglish. This is Ilan Stavins, and I quote, "Protecting Castilian Spanish from the barbarians in the ghettos of East Los Angeles and Spanish Harlem is futile, for Spanglish is here to stay, and it is time for the nation's intelligentsia to acknowledge it. Language, after all, changes constantly. Borges wrote in an anglicized Spanish, and Julio Cortázar made his fiction come alive by writing in Spanish with a French twist." End quote. Spanglish is a phenomenon that I believe is growing and inevitable, for better or for worse. So that is my presentation. Here are some of the citations. Thank you so much for paying attention, and I very much look forward to seeing your presentations soon.